Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, iTunes, TuneIn, TV Live, Rumble, and more. And why so many places? Because I want you to have a start of the day that is more hope and happiness than gossip, scandal, or K-words. No Kanye talk at all on this show. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And so I have topics and guests to that end, and today is absolutely no exception. I have a special guest for you today whose story, when I read it, was absolutely breathtaking and heart-opening, literally. He is actually from the entertainment industry, and I'll let him explain the shows that he's worked on that you'll recognize. But he's had operations to try to fix his heart from birth, and then got a heart transplant, not once, but twice. And he is also going to tell us about the experience meeting the donors of the gentleman whose heart he is now having and grateful for. He's the author of Grateful Guilt. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome into my studio. His name is Steve Taibbi. Welcome. Good morning. I should say Steven.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm happy and grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and happy to have you here. And I guess I'll do my normal, even though I gave you a little bit of an introduction so that my listeners know what's coming up. And it's really, truly, I know, one of those, if it weren't you that was on here, I would say that's not possible. So we'll start with, let's see, I have not an answering machine. I have a questioning machine. So when you call me, Stephen, it says, who are you and what do you want? So who are you and what do you want?
Well, I'm Stephen G. Taibbi, and I've had a lifetime of heart difficulties and heart surgeries, and I learned how to survive everything because I've been told 5 different times. Well, my parents were told twice, and I've been told 3 times that I had a year to live. And I'm here. I wrote the book, and I'm here because people don't understand how much power they have, what's inside of them. I've had doctors literally tell me that I'm only here because of me. I've had doctors tell me I went through the kind of pain that only prisoners of war go through. So, but what is the equalizer here? The dominating thing here is that since I was a child, since I had my first operation at 5 years old, I had my first 3 operations the day I was born, but my major operation started at 5. And I developed strategies. I had one strategy for that operation. Then I developed a couple of others for my second operation when I was 6. By the way, I was the first person in the world to survive open heart surgery for ASD repair. So when I had my first operation, only 50% of the children were living. When I had my second operation, I was the first. So could you imagine my parents?
No. So let me interrupt you for a second and just go back to when you were born, were you the first, second, third child? Did your parents have any idea, with the ultrasound, what was the initial, literally you're coming in? So go ahead.
Well, there was no ultrasound in 53.
Okay.
So what they discovered was they took X-rays of our family because my grandfather who was living with us was suspected of having tuberculosis. So that's how they found my enlarged heart. And by the time they found it, I was already pretty near death, and nobody knew it. So,
and how old were you then?
5.
You were 5. Okay.
I was 5. Yeah.
So, and your parents were obviously upset. Were you the only child?
I'm the only natural child. My siblings are adopted.
Oh, okay.
So
you're the oldest?
No, my brother Peter is my oldest. Michael is second, then me, then my little sister Naomi.
Okay.
And
they didn't have any health problems.
They didn't know, but I was born cyanotic. I was a blue baby. I wasn't
what's that?
driving.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Well, a blue baby is when your heart's not pumping enough that you're not fully oxygenated, so you have a bluish hue.
Okay.
So I was born as a blue baby. It got better after that, but they didn't know that I had these holes in my heart. That's what ASD is.
Okay.
And
thank you for that. I'm learning all these new. I'm a doctor, but I'm a PhD doctor, not MD doctor. So,
okay, so you the chambers of your heart. Between the chambers is a wall. That's the septum, and I had 2 holes in my atrial septum.
Wow.
So, and I had a vein that was plumbed backwards and was going into my lungs. So when they fixed the first hole, they found the second hole and they found the vein, but they thought I was too weak to survive that surgery. So they sent me home for about a year, hoping that I'd get stronger and could survive the next surgery, which at that point, nobody had survived, But you said, who am I and what do I want? I want people to understand how much power they have, that, I used all these strategies throughout all my life, whether it was for bullies, whether it was for my career. I've always used strategies. And that was taught to me because of my illnesses as a child. But people will get told that they are profoundly ill and they go berserk and they go crying and they do everything but take control. And my book is because I want people to understand that with just a few steps, you can enhance your chances tremendously. I mean, I'm here because of me. And I've had doctors tell me that, as I said. So I know this is true. Now, I have strategies in the book that I use. I don't think you have to use my strategies exactly, but I'm hoping that it'll give you an idea of what you can do and maybe come up on your own.
Beautiful. So what would you say is the first important strategy that you said you actually learned at the age of 5 with that first surgery?
Well, that was an accident. That was the desperation of a small child who was terrified. And I found a cave in my brain and I would crawl into it. And once I was in that, I was disassociating. And once I was in my cave, a deeply visualized cave, that once I was in there, they could do anything they wanted to me and it didn't hurt. Of course it hurt, but I didn't feel it because I was so disassociated. I paid the price for that later, but
How?
But at the time, well, psychologically, it's murder,
Because you're not there anymore.
Because I pushed aside pains and experiences that don't really go away. I mean, I didn't feel them at the time. It helped me survive those moments, but they were still in there trying to come out. And it took me years to figure that out.
Interesting. Now that's something that helped you deal with the pain and the trauma, I would say, as a child. But then later on, it flipped around and kicked your butt a little bit.
Kicked my butt a lot of bit until I figured it all out. But yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of that. What you don't deal with will come back and deal with you.
Absolutely.
So that sounds like that. But I don't think it's something that you should, or not should on yourself, but that I think that's a beautiful part of life. in that something that worked to help you as a child, like your critic, I talk about that all the time, is, your protector, and it kept you alive. But later in life, your critic that tells you you're not good enough is not helpful.
Right.
So there's a time and a place for that, your strategy of the disassociation. So as a 5-year-old who is watching, people, kids, I don't know if you went to school, but, seeing the comparison of what normal kids get to enjoy or play or whatever, and you're sitting there with tubes in you and one more trip to the hospital, and I'm sure your parents were concerned, hearing the doctor. What was the relationship like with your parents?
Well, my parents handled it well, and they handled it horribly. I mean, you can't. I'm not criticizing my parents. Nobody trained them for this. In one way, once I got home, they wouldn't allow me to think that I had been sick or that I was still sick. Actually, when I went home, they thought I only had a year. When I went home the second time, they were told I wouldn't get past 10, but they never allowed me to think that I was sick. They never acted like I was sick. I had to do all the other things I had to do, right? That was their strategy. And that was helpful for me in a way. But imagine this, you're in, you're 5 years old, and you watch children in your ward leave for an operation, and they don't come back. And they don't come back because they're never coming back. And you know that. So you watch, I saw a kid screaming and yelling because he didn't want to go, and he never came back. He was right across the bed from me. He was the bed opposite mine. And you have that experience, and then suddenly you're in first grade, I went to first grade a little while after, and suddenly I'm supposed to be normal. I've been watching children die, and then bam, I'm just normal. It was a real mind screw,
Right. Kind of like the disassociation that you were going through as well.
It was just so unreal.
Yeah. Did your parents have a very strong religious background? Was there faith, church, any of that to help or hurt?
Well, we were Italian Catholics, so we always went to church.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that we were a really strongly religious family. But this destroyed the family. The family dissolved because of all this.
Is that one of the reasons why it's grateful guilt?
No, it's grateful guilt because after I had my first transplant, I started to have severe survivor's guilt. And that's a very common thing in major organ replacement, that the recipient has survivor's guilt. And it can be very bad. And back when I had my first operation in 2000, if I talked to somebody, a doctor, a nurse, a person at an OPO, which is the Organ Procurement Organization, because I was at that time now vice president of Transplant Speakers International, and we were a very large transplant organization. And no matter who I talked to, they'd say, you got your organ, what are you worried about? Or don't worry, they didn't die for you. They just hit me with platitudes, and they'd turn me off, and they just ignore me. Meantime, if a woman lost her breast to cancer, and she went to a friend or to a doctor, anybody grieving the loss of her breast, which is the rightful thing to do, right? Nobody would say to her, well, it would have killed you, or given her a platitude. They all would have gone, oh, that must be tough. Or they would have done something that way with her, but they didn't do that with us. And the more they did that with us, the more our guilt could be, because now we're like, what's wrong with us? Everybody else thinks we should be fine, So we developed a program called Grateful Guilt at Transplant Speakers to address the survivor's guilt. And we were the first organization, I think, in the world to recognize survivor's guilt among recipients. And once we started our program and the OPOs saw people falling to their knees crying, I mean, big grown men crying on their hands and knees, because it's the first time that their guilt was being acknowledged.
Wow.
That's
phenomenal.
That's grateful guilt. That's how we got grateful guilt.
Wow. So, I was going to give you this later, but I'm going to give it now, because I think One of my favorite things about the show is meeting people who take their pain in life, which is mandatory, suffering is optional, but turn that pain around into a place that you can help other people because of your experience. You are uniquely tooled and have that gift and ability to address something that wasn't addressed in the past or was necessary, but no one did that. So for that, let's see if I can find it. I'm giving you the Dr. Marissa Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. That goes to Steve Taibbi, and wow, that just blew my mind just now. So it's something we don't think about. Transplant, you're using an organ donor. The donor dies, obviously unexpectedly, so that the whatever it is can be harvested. I never liked that word, by the way.
No, we don't use that word. We use.
Oh, you don't use that word? Oh,
no,
good.
We transplant really hate that word. We think it's insulting to the families. So we like to say receive the gift or anything like that, anything similar to that.
Good. I'm so glad because, yeah, it's a horrible word. And I'm being told I have to take a break. We could continue talking not ad nauseum, but ad gratitude. But we'll take a quick little break. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. My special guest today is author of Grateful Guilt, Steve Taibbi. He's telling us the story of his own heart. We're getting now into the donor aspect of the gift of the heart. When we come back, we'll be talking about his phenomenal experience contacting the donor family. So don't go away. We'll be right back here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Welcome to Balanced Tai Chi Gong. My name is Dr. Marissa Pei. For the next 28 minutes, we will be slow dancing with the universe in a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. Just follow the sound of my voice and move with me as I guide you through this ancient wisdom through New Thought practice. As a corporate psychologist, I created this practice in response to my life and those of my clients. We were professional, high achievement-oriented, multitasking control freaks and exhausted. No matter how many successes, it was never enough. That, coupled with a painful life experience, led me on a quest to find another way to live and back to my Chinese roots. If you practice regularly, I can promise you that it will impact all health vortexes. Body, mind, spirit, soul. You will be in a place of balance and inner peace the way we were created. 谢谢.
Be my partner, dance with me, just hold on.
Well, she has been dubbed the Asian Oprah, and she just wants all of us to be happy.
Dr. Marissa, aka the Asian Oprah, says the most important thing you can choose is choosing to be happy.
You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa.
That's the idea for Dr. Marissa Pei's new book called 8 Ways to Be Happy.
impact your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio channel KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube channel, where if you free subscribe, you will get an alert in the morning every 8 a.m. weekday morning for a new show to drop, as well as check out my red carpet playlist where you can hear my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, and more. And thanks to all of you, this is the #1 talk news station in the Inland Empire, and I am the #1 8 a.m. show as well. And I'm so grateful for all of the support. And you just saw the promo for Balanced Tai Chi Gong, Chinese yoga. And it is the last Saturday of the month. So please do join me at 10 a.m. If you're anywhere close to Long Beach, then I'll see you at 10 a.m. by the water where cherry meets ocean in front of the Plunge restaurant. Or if you're not close to Long Beach, then please do go to drmarissa.life and you can get a copy of the download or the DVD that you can work along at home. And it's a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. So that is the Asian Oprah giveaway for today. The first person to go to drmarissa.life and put in meditation will get a copy of that download, but please do join me. You can register at drmarissa.life. And today I'm so impressed and I've learned so much already from my guest. His name is Steve Taibbi, and I think I got the pronunciation right that time. He is the author of Grateful Guilt. He is a 2-time heart transplant, and probably survivor's not the term either, but where I'm learning all kinds of nomenclature and understanding this whole field that I was not aware of, which is one of the best occupational hazards of having this show for now over 9 years. So without further ado, welcome back, Steve, to the studio. Let's give you a little more applause because I just... So we were talking about donor experience and your situation. Give me a little both personal and technical background about donors.
Well, donors always have, 99% of the time, donors die from, something violent and something sudden. It can be violent internally, like my last donor died of a brain aneurysm. But it's usually something like falling off a ladder or a gunshot, something, somebody beat them. They fell. My first donor fell down a flight of stairs. So, it's always traumatic because, they have to be healthy relatively to become donors. So that's that. And that's one of the reasons why we're so guilty is because we're waiting for about a year to get a heart, and we know that somebody's going to die. We know they're not dying for us. We know that. But you can't help but start thinking and getting crazy in your head. And you get this idea that, boy, if only I could take the hit because I know I'm going to die. They don't. I'd rather take the hit. That's really where the survivor's guilt comes from,
Right.
And,
right.
I was saying before about patients need to take control, they need to take control of several things. They need to take control of their situation and they need to take control of themselves. And they have to guide the medical teams. They have to be the ones. So I would just say real quickly, 2 things that if you find yourself in the hospital, unfortunately, but if you find yourself in the hospital, there are 2 things you must do if you want to survive. The first thing you have to do is be grateful for everything. And every single person who walks into your room, you're grateful for. You're thanking them. You're finding out their name. You're being friendly with them. You're never combative. You never go, do you know who I am? None of that. You have to be completely humble, completely grateful that these people are trying to save your life. That's what they're doing. So why you're being, nasty to them? And you have to be the patient that they want to see. The more they want to see you, the more the more they like you, the more they want to help you. It's just common sense. The next thing you should do is wear street clothes. Whenever I'm in the hospital, I wear a button-down shirt because they can get to that easily, and with a pocket in case I have to have a monitor. So it goes in there rather than hanging around my neck with sweatpants. When I do that, instead of seeing a gown, the doctors see a shirt, and the doctors see a difference. And now you're no longer that biological piece of meat in the bed that they see hundreds of every day. Now you are a person in a shirt and pants who they have to unbutton you to, instead of just pulling a gown over your head.
I didn't know you had that choice. I thought you had to wear the gown.
They like to make you think that.
Okay.
But I learned back when I was 17. They wanted me to wear pajamas. Back then, I slept without any clothing, and they couldn't get me to wear clothing when I was 17. So it was an easy transition to clothing.
Okay. That's part 2 of the story. But now let's go. The great strategies, things that obviously we, with more people now in the hospital, good to know. It's funny that you said gratitude. I usually start my shows with taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich, and we actually go back and forth and do gratitude, except when I have a guest whose story we want to get out. So, but I will ask you to who or what are you most grateful for at the end of the show. That's usually my last question. So we'll go there. But I love that it's, I 100,000% concur with that strategy. But
gratitude is everything. It's everything.
It is. It absolutely is. So let's go, because I'm cognizant of the time. We've got 20 minutes left, and I would love to hear the story about your donor's family. So I understand that most donor families do not want to meet the person who who has the gift.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
Okay. You have to write a letter addressed to the OPO, because you're not allowed to know who they are. The OPO, the Organ Procurement Organization, they're the people who list you. They're the people who tell you when you get a heart or not, or any organ. So you have to address your letter to them without giving any information about yourself. You could say your first name. You can't give a phone number. You can't give an address. They don't even want to tell you. You may be able to say, like, I lived in New York or something like that, but you're not allowed to. And actually, on my last one, they didn't even want me to say that, because I lived in New York, but I got my heart in California. So you write your letter, and only 3% of the time is it answered. And less than that, they get to meet. So it's probably around like 1% of the time that donors and recipients meet. There have been very violent meetings where somebody is very angry because you have the heart that belonged to the person they loved. That's happened, but that's rare, thankfully. So I wrote 2 or 3 letters to my first donor. She never responded. That's her right. I'm happy. She gave me the gift. I have nothing to complain about. If that's what makes her happy, I'm all for it. I really,
Mm-hmm. Was it her child or husband? Was it her
husband?
Husband.
Husband.
It's understandable. It's completely understandable.
Absolutely is. It's a huge loss, and they don't want to revisit it, and I totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
Then my second time, I wrote 2 letters. And I was thinking, well, they're never going. I might have even been 3 letters. And then you say to yourself, okay, I'm not writing letters anymore because I don't want to nag them. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to guilt them, And then I get a letter from the OPO saying, I got a phone call from the OPO saying, we have a letter for you. Do you want it? Yeah, And I got this beautiful handwritten letter on notebook, on lined paper, beautiful handwriting. From the mother of my donor. Her name is Susan Jacobo. Her husband is David Jacobo, and the donor, their son, was David Jason Jacobo, and he was 36 or 37. I'm getting a little fuzzy on that now. But when I got that letter, I was crying and I was holding it against my chest. And I was going, David, this is your mother's handwriting. David, this is your mother. You know, I never think this is mine. My heart is, this is not my heart. My heart's at home in a jar. This heart belonged to David and his family. And I'm always cognizant of that, you know. So we after some back and forth, and we started messaging on Facebook. We said we have to meet. So I flew out to LA, and they're a typical Hispanic family in the way that they are Italians. You know, lots of family. You know, so there were probably 50 people there, cousins, aunts, friends. It was wonderful, really wonderful. Lovely, lovely people, really lovely people. And the ex-wife, David's wife, my donor's wife, said, you know, to me very early on in the evening, she goes, you know, you're family now. And they have treated me that way ever since. I love this family. They're wonderful, wonderful, warm people. My wife is a nurse, and we brought my wife's stethoscope with us because we knew they'd want to listen. And so it became a point where everybody, because they did want to listen and it was going to be part of the night. And so I sat on a couch outside. It was a beautiful, beautiful summer night in California. And I sat down on this couch, and they took turns, but only the women, not a single male, listened. Something like 6 women listened. The mother listened twice. David's daughter, she was about 7 at the time, I think. It was hard for her to catch the beat because it's, you know, it's a lot harder to listen to a heart than people think. And I'm watching this little girl, breaking my heart. She's a cute, sweet little girl, and I see her, and you could see it when she caught the beat. You see it in her face. She just went right, and then she just had this. Her face was a kaleidoscope of emotions. I mean, it was like a rotating kaleidoscope of just all these emotions, and she was very brave and very good. She refused to cry. The mother, I remember the first time the mother caught the beat, and she just started doing this. She started going with a smile on her face. She was going, and you know, those are really wonderful, wonderful moments. You know,
that you're breaking my heart right now, and I'm not as strong as that little girl, but I never apologize for crying because tears are the disinfectant that keep our hearts soft. So my heart is very mushy right now. What a beautiful, heartbreaking, literally, story. And for those who've just tuned in, Stephen just is explaining his heart donor died of an aneurysm at the age of 36, I believe you said, suddenly. And the family did want to meet Stephen and listen to the heart of the son and the father and the brother of David, of the donor. So that what an amazing, and this happens in, like you said, less than 3% actually make the connection from the donor to the recipient, and then less than that actually reply and respond. So
3% respond to the letter, and less than that actually meet.
Got it. What a beautiful, true story. And the fact that they call you family now, that has got to be just amazing. How's your wife feel about all this? She went with you.
My wife was my rock. I mean, she was unbelievable. I remember when I proposed to Rose, I said to her, you know, I promise you it'll be an adventure. We just didn't know it would be like this. But it's been an adventure.
Now, when you married, how did you meet your wife? And at the time, had you already had your first heart transplant?
No, I was considered completely healthy and without any problems at that time. And I met my wife through, I put an ad in a local little paper called the Penny Saver. It's like where you advertise you're selling a refrigerator, and they had a dating thing there. This was before computer dating. And I figured, it was local, and she was 1 mile from my house, literally exactly 1 mile from where I lived. And
this is in New York?
Yes, this is in Long Island, New York. And then the night that I met Rose, I was 36. I got married, I was 37, so I was probably 37. The night I met Rose, I'm a night owl, and I have a friend who's a night owl, a doctor. And I got home at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I called him. This was on my first date with Rose, and I called Mark, and I said, Mark, I just met my wife. We were married in 7 months.
Wow. What did your ad say?
Just bearded Italian man. I forget, looking for I don't remember, but
a bearded Italian woman. No, I'm just kidding.
No, most of them are, especially in her family. Now I'm gonna get beat up.
Oh, what a great, beautiful story. So, can I ask how old she was? Was she?
Rose is 2 years younger than me.
2 years younger. Okay, so
and it was both of our first marriage.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's
actually Thursday is our 31st anniversary.
Woohoo! Let's get that applause going again. Is that how cool
it is really cool?
So,
I mean, I'm going to tell you something. When I woke up from my first surgery, there was something, I never said it to anybody, but I would have bet every single dollar and every single thing I owned that it would have been true. And when I was coming out of anesthesia, I knew I was holding her hand. I knew she would be there holding my hand. And she was.
Wow. And you've never told anybody that?
I never told anybody that before it happened. I was just saying to myself, I guarantee you that she's going to do that.
Yeah. One of these days you're going to have to bring her back, and we'll have another show. So, because I just love, hashtag relationship goals of things that are successful, because we hear about all the relationships that are not successful all the time. So, I like to balance out all the bad news with good news. So that's beautiful. So
do I have time for something to interject?
Oh, please.
Okay. This is something that's really important. This is what one of the things I'm trying to get through so that people can understand things. My wife was there all the time. She slept in my room a lot of the time. But oddly enough, the biggest things that happened, she wasn't there. And nobody's going to be there but you. The thing you have to understand that I had to understand, and I hope other people will understand, is that you're doing this alone. Whenever you're in a hospital, when you're going for procedures, when things are happening, you are alone. And it's up to you. It's up to you to make sure that you come out of it. It's up to you that you have the right attitude. It's up to you. It's just up to you. And no matter how much Rose was always there, the biggest things that happened, she wasn't there for. And that's just the way it is in a hospital. It's not because she wouldn't want it to be, but it's because they don't let you be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing that message loud and clear, that you are the boss of you, and that you're going to have to take responsibility for your own treatment, your own health. I've heard that more and more, and it's understandable. We give a lot of power to people that we think are experts, and they're human.
Yeah.
Right. It's so absolutely a great point to make and to remember. And many points like that are in your book, which is an important, almost sounds like a guidebook for anybody that's going through some medical challenges. And you can get the book where?
The book is available. I mean, I guess the easiest place is on Amazon, but it's at Barnes & Nobles and other bookstores. The audio book is on Google Play and Kobo and Scribd and Chirp and Apple and Nook audiobooks. It's not on Audible. For some reason, I just can't get Audible to respond yet. But but it's on all those others, and
Yeah.
that just came out. But but this book is designed to be for anybody. I mean, it's not just about illness. It's how I did all these other things. But if you know somebody who's sick, or if you're sick, I recommend reading it. I think it'll give you hope, and it'll give you some ideas of what you can do for yourself. That's why I wrote this. I had more people say, you have to write this book because people need to know these things. But it's funny, and it's it's a good read. I've only gotten 5-star reviews on Amazon. So
Wonderful.
People seem to like it. So I recommend it, whether it's because you're sick, or it's because you know somebody who's sick, or you just want to read something that's interesting.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Now, before I get to the last question, you've done some industry work as well.
Yes.
Share with us the kind of work that you get to do, because you told me at the beginning that your background is from your TV stuff. So I'm curious. Go ahead, tell me.
I was one of the guys who got cable off the ground. When cable started in New York, people don't know that, but cable started in New York, and I worked on most of the large cable shows back then. At one time, I was working on the number 1, number 2, and number 3 show on cable.
Which was?
Let's see. It was Dr. Ruth was number 1. Lifetime was number 2, and the other one with what was her name? The girl from Good Morning America, who was she had won the Miss America. What was her name? Joan London. I forget the name of that show, but those were the number 1, 2, and 3 shows. And a lot of the shows I worked on became networks. For example, Lifetime became a network, and Good Housekeeping became a network, and several others that I worked on became networks. So it's really interesting that the networks grew up out of the shows.
Yeah. What do you think about today's television?
Not much.
How did I know you were going to say that?
It's not so bland. It's so, everybody is so married to the arc. Every show is the arc, the arc, the arc. You know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
The arc is that writer's arc where everything's going great, then something bad has to happen, and then it has to heal. You know, it's just every movie, every TV show, they all seem to be like boilerplate now to me. I don't think there's anything really original, except for Ghosts. I love Ghosts. That's a hysterical show.
Okay.
Which is an NBC show, I believe. But that show was great. But for the most part, I think everything's gotten very unoriginal.
All right. So I'll have to take a look at Ghost and see what that's like. So I actually got to interview Dr. Ruth in New York at the Book Expo when my book came out. So that was kind of cool. She is exactly as she is.
She's a riot. I love Ruth.
She's very funny.
But you know what the thing about Ruth that I love, Ruth is one, you know, that they talk about personal power, right? A person has personal power.
Yes.
Well, the 3 people in my life I've met who really fit that bill were David Rockefeller, Richard M. Nixon, and Dr. Ruth. She has a ton of personal power. I mean, if she doesn't want to do something, it's not happening. You know. And I'm going to tell you, every time she didn't want to do something on the show, she was right.
Yeah, she was directing my interview. It's kind of funny. I'll have to send you a link. It was quite amusing. All right, so we're getting to the end of the show. So first, again, please go get Stephen's book, Grateful Guilt. You can get it anywhere, everywhere. If you want to take responsibility for you and come out of something that could be despair and turn it into hope. That would be my tagline from listening to what your book is about. Look forward to reading it. And to who or what are you most grateful for? To who or what are you most grateful for? That's the last question I ask all my guests.
I'd have to split that between 2. Number 1, I'm probably one of the most blessed people I've ever met. I mean, I I should have died so many times. I almost died 5 times in 1 year, and yet here I am. I've been told that I only have a year to live 5 times. So I am blessed beyond anything, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And beyond that, I would have to say my wife.
Beautiful. Rose, and that's actually my mom's name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, we have a little time left. You had an out-of-body experience. So yes. I was going to ask you about that if we had time, and we have time. So tell me what happened.
I had taken a drug because I'd had a surgery when I was 16, and I was taking this drug at the end of my 16th year that they gave me that it turned out I was allergic to, and it gave me a heart block incident on my 17th birthday. When I'm out going, because I'd be pressed for time, we're not going the whole thing though. I'm on my bed, and I knew something was going to happen. My mother had just left the room. My heart rate was down in the low 40s, high 30s, which is borderline for life. And all of a sudden, it was like a sledgehammer hit my chest, and I literally jumped up in the bed. And when that happened, I audibly heard a click, like an old electrical switch click. And at that point, I sprang out of my body, went boing like that. And now I'm looking down at myself, and I'm looking up at the ceiling, and I could see me looking at me, and I could see me looking at me, and I could see me looking at the ceiling. There were 2 of me's now. And then I just started to rise. And as I started to rise, I'm looking down, and all the pain went away. It became very peaceful. And I was like, oh, if this is what I've been fighting against, fine, let's go. I'm fine. This is good. And next, I go through my ceiling. I go just above the ceiling. I see my mother in the backyard talking to our neighbor. And you could not see where she was from my room, other than if you were looking through the roof. And then I went higher, and it became blacker and blacker and blacker. But I'm still going up, and now there's a light up in the right-hand corner, this bright, bright light that was so far away, it was dim. I know, there's lots of contradictions. But it was so bright, but it was like silver gray because it was too far away to be bright, but it was so bright. And all I wanted to do was get to that light. And then I started to slow down, and I said to myself, this can't be good. And next thing I know, I'm in a crowd. I mean, really, really crowded. It's like a Japanese commuter train. It was like this. And of course, there's no body. I don't have eyesight as far as what I have. I have senses, but not eyesight as we know it, except for the light. And now I'm stopping in this crowd, and I'm like, what the heck? And then I heard the gnashing of teeth. The Bible calls it the gnashing of teeth. And it's black, and it's coldest cold I've ever been in, the blackest black I've ever been in. And I'm like, well, this can't be good, you know? And then I felt a parting, and I'm terrified that I'm going to be stuck there. And then I felt this parting, and something comes up behind me. Someone comes up behind me. And I've always described it this way, in a voice I've never heard before, but I recognized. Said, no, go back. You're not ready yet. The part of me that was on the bed heard that and didn't know about being stuck, and was just happy and thought everything was great. And I actually out loud said, oh, blank. And now I had to.
O-G word or O-F word?
O-S word.
O-S, okay.
I'm laying with my arms at my sides, and I call this divine intervention. How was I going to get my heart started again? And something that made me throw my arms across my chest as hard as I could. And next thing I know, I felt the beat. Now my blood had gone stasis. You know, it was pooling from just not moving. And that first heartbeat was so painful. And then the next heartbeat, and it was slow, but it was like the old-fashioned car jacks, excuse me. I just kept, every beat brought me down a little bit until I'm above my roof again. I'm looking at my mother. I'm back through the ceiling. I go back into myself, and I heard the click again, and I was back.
Wow.
And then I checked with my mother just to be sure. And I described exactly where they were, how they were standing, and what he was wearing, and what he was holding. And there was no way I could have known that.
So it was validated. Now,
It
was there anyone in the room when you did this?
No, just me.
Oh, just you. So nobody saw you, because that would have been pretty amazing too.
Well,
right?
that's why I call it divine intervention. I can't think of another reason why I would have thought to do that.
Right. Now, armchair quarterback, was that purgatory, you think, that you were? And did you come back and go, I better get on a better track because I don't want to go where the gnashing of teeth are?
It was my 17th birthday. I hadn't committed any. I hadn't gone against any of the 10 commandments. I haven't killed anybody. I haven't stolen cars or robbed banks. I wasn't having adulterous affairs with neighbors.
Right. Wow. That is
But a friend of mine said, I think you were in the valley of the shadow of death. But also the Greek word hell means absence of light. So that's interesting.
And you still saw that light in the right corner. So, wow, that's phenomenal. I'm going to have to introduce you to my old boss at UBN. He has a show that all people who've had that experience go on. Now, you actually described this in your book, right?
Yeah.
Your out-of-body experience.
In better detail.
In better detail. Well, that was great detail, though. So I'm glad we had time to go through that. That's fascinating. You're the first person that I've interviewed about their out-of-body experience. So now I understand why Tony always likes me to interview people with that story.
Actually, I've had two. I had my first one on during my operation when I was 6.
Oh, wow. And you remember that one as well. Did you have a voice in that one?
No, but I had many visuals, but I was being operated on, and you don't come back from an operation with a memory. I did.
Interesting. Wow. So y'all got to get his book, Grateful Guilt. Steve Taibbi. I didn't get it right. Taibbi has been my guest today. I hope you've enjoyed his very real, true, and educational story of the terminology not to use, the things that we don't think about when we look at organ donation. I so appreciate having you here and sharing your life and your heart with me.
Very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
One more applause here before I say goodbye. Where is it? And that's it for show 707. Please go to drmarissa.life. I'd love to see you this Friday night for my Get Happy Free orientation. And tomorrow we'll be looking at some on location again, celebrating AAPI month. This is Dr. Marissa reminding you it's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Now go forth and have the most grateful heart day ever. See you tomorrow.